Hello everyone, and welcome to the How to Play video for the Monster Girl Masters trading card game. The Monster Girl Masters trading card game, each player has a deck of 64 cards that consists of any monster, spells, equipment, and other cards that you'd like, your mana cards, and your 4 rally cards. At the beginning of each play session, each player will separate their deck into 3 parts. The first part being the rally cards. The rally cards are separate and played face up into the battle, and whenever your monster is slain, these are the cards that will act as your life points and also give you specific boosts to kind of help you get back into the battle. These cards are played face up in the play area, so each player can see each of the cards each player has at all times, and how many are remaining. The second part of each player's deck is their mana pool. So the player's mana pool consists of both the small mana crystals and any large mana crystals that they can have in their deck. The small mana crystals work for every single monster and are colorless basically. The large mana crystals will also work on any monster, but offer additional effects to the same color type. So, as an example, that sapphire crystal can work for blue monsters and give them additional effects such as increased health. So you separate all of your mana cards separately from your deck at the beginning of play, and you shuffle them, and then place them face down separate from your deck. And then the last part of your deck is just all the standard cards you have left, including spells, monsters, equipment, etc. These will also get shuffled and placed face down into play, and players can choose to draw between either their mana pool or their deck when they take a draw for their turn at the beginning. Also in the play area, there's also the active monster slot, where each player has their monster that's currently facing your opponent's monster. There's also space for 4 additional monsters to be placed in a player's party. These cards can also be in play but not necessarily battling, so they can be there to have cards attached to them such as mana and equipment, and can also heal 10 HP when they're wounded in battle at the start of every player's turn. When starting a new game, each player will draw 7 cards. They can draw these 7 cards from either their deck or their mana pool in any combination. I usually recommend starting from your deck, since you need to start with at least 1 tier 1 monster in your hand in order to start playing. And then afterwards you can start drawing from your mana pool. Is a good way to try and not take a mulligan. A mulligan basically happens when you don't have a monster that you're able to start playing with, such as Ice Elemental here is a tier 1. If you do have one, you select it and you place it face down in the active spot. Once your opponent has also selected their tier 1 monster that they're going to use and place face down in the field, you flip to see who will go first, and then afterwards you reveal the card face up and start playing the match. So if you go first, you don't take a draw for your first turn, but every other turn you do take a draw. See, in our hand here we have a tier 2 monster that can go on Ice Elemental. We have another tier 1 monster, Bunyip, which we can actually play into our party during our turn. You can't place a tier 2 down on a tier 1 in the same turn that it was put into play, but you can place 1 mana per turn onto any monster in play. You can also use arena cards and spell cards. Arena cards give effects to all monsters in play, including yours and your opponent's, and only one can be in play at a time. So if a new one comes into play, it will override the last one. Spell cards can be used as many times as you like during a turn. For example here, we have Collect, which allows us to draw 2 cards from either our mana pool or a deck in any combination. So here we'll just draw 2 cards from the deck. We've got another tier 1 creature, and another spell. And this spell is actually going to be pretty handy. and I think we'll use that also on our turn, because it looks like we don't really have anything else that we can do. So why don't we use that effect? Now, that spell is called Summoning Scroll. So it allows us to discard 2 cards from our hand to search our deck for any monster and put it in our hand. So we're going to end up discarding our Tier 1 Kelp creature. And we're also going to discard our Meditate spell card. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow us to search our deck for our boss monster. We're using the Sea theme deck from the 2-player starter set, so our boss monster is going to be Ice Queen. She's a Tier 3 of the Ice Elemental, and she's going to have a really strong ability that we will want to get into play. Of course, we'll also have to shuffle our deck afterwards after searching our deck. So that covers just about every action that we can do in our turn currently. We don't have any equipment cards to place down. Equipments can only be placed once per turn. But now we have our Tier 2 and our Tier 3 all lined up to go in our next couple turns. So we're going to end our turn by attacking. Ice Elemental has an attack that does 10 damage to your opponent and also has a chance to put them to sleep with the coin flip. You can also end your turn by blocking. We also have a couple other status effects besides sleep. We have poison, blindness, bleed, and burn, as well as stun. To represent bleed, poison, blind, and burn, we have these tokens. And we also represent stun by flipping the card upside down, which prevents you attacking from next turn. And flipping the card over represents sleep, which means you can't swap or attack during your turn, and you flip after every turn to see if you wake up. If you end your turn by defending instead of attacking, it will reduce any incoming damage that you take by half, and then round it down to the nearest 10. To represent that, you would put your card sideways. So let's say on our opponent's turn they end up attacking us, we take 20 damage, and they also gave us a burn effect. Burn's pretty nasty. It does 20 damage anytime we use an attack of our own. But during our next turn, since we had Ice Elemental out for a full turn, we can actually ascend it up to Glacies, the Tier 2. And anytime you ascend a monster, that will remove any status effect that we have, but it also keeps the damage. So any status effects will be removed when ascending to the next tier, but any cards that were attached to the previous monster and any damage that they had will always stay. So let's skip ahead a little bit and say we went through a couple turns, and we drew mana from our turns as well for your 1 draw. Looks like we drew a large mana crystal. The Sapphire Crystal gives 10 HP to blue monsters when attached to them. So we'll go ahead and attach that to her Tier 2 Glacies. So that way she can now use her 2 mana cost attack, Ice Armor. Blue mana crystals can also be used on any monster to give them mana, but they do not receive the additional effect. And if we skip ahead to our next turn, that would give us the ability to now put into play our Ice Queen monster, so we can ascend it up to the Tier 3. Remember, it does keep all the damage that was attached. But now we can also use Ice Queen's skill that she has. Now skills are different than attacks. Skills don't require any mana cost and can be used as many times as the card text allows. For Ice Queen's ability, to demonstrate if we had a couple different mana in our hand, it allows us to attach more than 1 mana per turn. So it'll exceed the 1 mana per turn limit. So we could put down all 3 of these mana here if we had them in our hand currently. It doesn't allow us to draw more mana. This is just for demonstration purposes. Now if we take a look at the arena that's in effect, Mermaid Cove allows us to reduce the swap cost of all monsters by 1. So normally, Ice Queen has a swap cost of 3, which will bring it down to 2 with the arena card. So in order to swap a monster out of battle, you have to pay the cost from the monster that's swapping out. So we're going to take the 2 mana and discard them, and we keep the 1 mana with a sapphire crystal attached. And we're going to bring in one of the party monsters, Bunyip. And Bunyip will now be the new active monster. During the start of your turn, every monster that's in the party can heal 10 HP while it's there. This is really helpful if you want to remove status effects and slowly bring your monsters back up to speed, getting them out of the battle and out of harm's way, so that way you can prepare them to go back in later. If one of your monsters takes enough damage to have it slain and knocked out, all of the cards that are attached to that monster are also discarded as well. And you'll have to choose a new monster to replace it to put back into the active spot. So we'll bring Ice Queen back in here, since she was in our party. And then upon being slain, you take one of your rally cards and put their effect into a play. So right here we have Final Wish, which will heal 30 HP from all monsters in play. So we'll play that one, just to kind of heal off and top off our Ice Queen monster here. And that means we have 3 more rally cards that we can play. But for example, say we go through 3 more monsters, they're all slain, and we use our last rally card. We're actually still in play. It's only game over when you cannot play one more. So if Ice Queen was to be knocked out right now, we wouldn't have another rally card to play afterwards. So that means we would lose. We also would not have another monster in our party to kind of fill the active slot after she is slain, so that would also be another lose condition as well. The third and final lose condition would be if both the mana pool and the deck were empty and I was unable to draw at the start of my turn. And that's just about it. Each player takes turns going back and forth and applying these rules until the game is over. Thank you all so much for watching this how to play video on Monster Girl Masters trading card game. I hope this helped a little bit with explaining the rules of the game and like the flow. I recommend getting the 2-player starter set if you're looking to get into the game. It comes with an instruction book and all these tokens to kind of help you keep track of the game and explain all the rules into further detail. And good luck out there, Masters.